chosen for a reason.
What's happening?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure how much I'm going to say on this. I don't have any notes written down. I saw M. Night Shyamalan's Old this weekend. I'm going to do non-spoilers. Maybe I will go into spoilers at some point because you probably have to. But maybe I'll cut those out of this version and put a full uncut version on YouTube as a review. This is... Look, I will say this, okay? I'm not a massive M. Night Shyamalan fan. His favourite film of mine that I've seen is Unbreakable. But I'm not going to lie. I can't say I've seen a lot of his films. I've seen more of his more recent ones, but I haven't seen like The Sixth Sense. I haven't seen The Village. I haven't seen The Happening. The list goes on. I've never been really sold on the M. Night Shyamalan love, to be honest. I don't like his dialogue. It's really awkward and stilted. I think his twist endings are laughable at times and really awful. I hate his director cameos where he's always the most important guy ever, and that continues here. All of his worst tropes are in this movie. I'm going to go into the plot. I guess it could be considered a spoiler. It's in any of the trailers. This is based also on a graphic novel called Sandcastles, I believe. But I'm going to go into it, so if you want to skip over that too, just in case. But basic plot is that there's this family, and they get to this holiday resort, and they're said, hey, there's a private beach over here. And they go to this beach with a few other people. And while there, they learn that on this beach, you become old, you age. So, for example, in all the trailers we saw, like the kids go to the beach, and all of a sudden they're teenagers. Dun dun dun. And the whole film is basically set in at this beach, right? And it's like, I needed kind of more. Obviously the whole plot hinges on this beach, but the film for me felt way too long. Just like crazy long. It dragged so many times. I mean, I remember at one stage I looked at my phone and I was only halfway through the film. I was like, oh god, this premise is already getting old. But hey. The other thing is this, right? And I guess light spoilers here. When you have characters getting old, you know what's going to happen. The inevitable is going to happen with the characters getting old. And because of that, this movie felt like it was just repeating itself over and over and over again in different ways. There wasn't enough twists. I can't believe I'm complaining about a lack of twists in the M. Night Shyamalan movie, but there was nothing. Once it was like, here's the premise, there was nothing that make it interesting outside of that premise. And I don't think the premise is enough to sustain the film. The dialogue is dreadful. M. Night Shyamalan has a very clunky dialogue, but it basically feels like all the dialogue is just there to set up plot points later on. And no one speaks naturally. At one point, like, they're going to the beach and the mother is like, the daughter is singing and the mother is like listening, and she's like, oh, I can't wait to hear your voice when you're older. That's not something someone would naturally say, really. You're just saying like, oh, I'm going to see you older, aren't I? And of course it goes exactly where you expect it. The other thing I don't get about this film at all, maybe this is a trope in his other films that I've missed, he seems obsessed with what people's professions are. So much of this movie is like and it's a kid. The kid character's doing it, but the kids go up to grown-ups, and they're like, "Hey, who are you? What's your name? What do you do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm this person, and I'm a police officer." "Oh, what do you do?" "Well, I'm this person, and I'm a vet," or whatever the fuck. And the weird thing is, I was like, okay, well, I guess that's just a cute kid thing. That doesn't matter, I guess. But then, like every human character in the film, I don't know why I said human character. I'm sure if the animals could talk in this, they'd be saying the same thing. "Oh, I'm Tugs, and I'm a dog. Woof woof." "Oh, very good. What do you do?" "Oh, I'm Fluffy, and I'm a cat." "Oh, well done." Every character in the film is obsessed with their profession. There's this character like, "Well, I'm a doctor, you see, and I'm the head doctor in this place, and I don't know." And then this other person will come in and be like, "Hey, well, I'm a rapper." What was his rap? Mid-sized Sedan was the rapper's name. That was the one thing I was like, that's pretty good. There's a character that's like, "Oh, yes, it's me, and I study old bones." And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I don't care. Most of it doesn't even factor in. The only character that's of any real relevance is the doctor character, and they get that out of the way quickly. The other thing that I don't think is consistent is, like, as characters get older, sometimes it feels like physically they get older. And their brain gets older in some ways, like it must, but like the kid characters get older, but sometimes they have the mentality of kids, and other times they don't, and that really messed me up, and it was really weird, especially with a certain scene in the movie. And I'm going to talk about a few of those scenes now as I get to spoilers. I would say, don't see this. That's very harsh. You might enjoy it. I think if you saw this on something like a Netflix, you might enjoy it more. I thought this was a drag. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I saw this less than a week ago. I'm already forgetting bits of it. I just thought it was so long and at times surprisingly obvious and just boring to top it all off. And when you have a thriller that doesn't excite you and bores you, then that's a really bad sign. So I would say stay away from old. That's what I watched in cinemas this week. I'm going to put a full version, including spoilers, up on the YouTube channel if you want to hear my spoilerish thoughts.
Old, only in theaters this summer.
Okay, so spoilers for Old then, I guess. Right. The characters, of course, start to die, right? And the old die first, as that makes sense, right? And, like, it just becomes an endless onslaught of something's wrong with this person is dying, oh, you're like, okay, well, any dramatic effect we could have had from that is gone because we've seen it a million times. A few characters die in somewhat interesting ways, but there's no real, like, tension for me, because it became obvious that the characters, most of them, are not going to get off the beach. And it felt really dragged out because we had so many different characters. And it just wasn't very cinematic. It's surprising that in a movie like this, you couldn't make something very cinematic. It doesn't feel like no one really, like, withers into dust if you were opening something like that. It's just like someone's like, oh, I think I'm done for. Oh my god, they're dead. I'm tried. Oh. The only thing that was kind of interesting was someone got a tumor cut out as they were aging because the tumor had advanced. And on this beach, you also heal because time obviously speeds up. So anything that wouldn't kill you, I guess, heals quicker. So they do an incision and take out this massive tumor, which was gross, but I kind of thought it was cool. And the reason I bring up tumors, well, I mean, I bring up tumors because they're in the movie. But the reason I say that is because you find out very quickly that why are all these people on this beach? And it is seemingly because all of them, at least one member in their party, has some sort of medical illness or sickness. As soon as you hear that and think about it for a while, I guessed the twist. That's not because I think that's not me being like, yeah, I guessed the twist, I'm so clever. I just think that if you think about it for a long second, you're like, of course, if they're all here, it must be some sort of medical thing, because you see some guy looking at them the whole time. So I'm like, oh, it's medical research. And it is. That's the twist. And it's so boring. It's like not, like, it's just that, it kind of reminded me of the ending of Split, which I thought was awful as well. Where they're just, like, okay, I got some in spoilers already, but everyone ends up dying. Through different, not even different ways. Most of them are just like, I'm old, I have to die now. Ugh. One person falls off a cliff, but it's done so uninterestingly. Can I talk about before I get to the ending? Can I talk about the weirdest thing I've seen in a movie, and not in a good way? There's this kid. It's really creepy shit, man. Like, she was the kid is like 3, 4 maybe, I don't know. Obviously, she gets older. And there's another person that we saw as a kid. It's that guy from what's his name? Nate Wolf, I think his name, or Nat Wolf. It's the guy from Hereditary. Or is it Alex Wolff? I don't know. Alex Wolff, I think. But he has now also grown up. He started as a kid. And they have sex. And they don't show it, and they don't make it graphic. But all of a sudden she's pregnant. And at this point I still thought that I was, like, really convinced that, and it does seem like their mentality is still of kind of kids. And I'm like, that's really fucking weird. Like, not in a creepy way. Like, not, well, okay, it is in a creepy way, but not in a way where I was like, oh, that's terrifying. Or just like, what the fuck? Why would you put that in a movie? That's really weird. I thought that was a horrible thing to include. It didn't lead to anything interesting, either. They have a baby and the baby just dies. I was like, okay, well, thanks. Thanks for that. I guess they were just like, we don't have enough people to kill off. We may as well kill off a baby. To be shocking, I guess. And it was shocking, but I didn't think it was good. So yeah, M. Night is of course the most important person in his film. He drops the family off at the beach, but he's also the guy looking at them from the binoculars. And when they're all dead, except the two young kids that started with the family, but he thinks they're dead. He comes out and he's like, "That's right, another great thing. And we gave this person this medication, and they survived even longer. We've made a great medical advancement, everybody. Woo!" Okay. Right. That's what they do here in this resort. But what happened is there's a kid who's the son of the guy who runs the resort, who's like, "Oh, I want to be friends with this kid," and he gives him a message, and then he decodes the message eventually when he's aged like 60 years or something, and the message says like, "My dad hates the coral," so they swim out, him and his sister swim out to the coral, which apparently stops them from aging. Once they're through the coral, they're away from the curse of the beach or whatever it is. And then they manage to get back to the thing, and they blow up their spot. They get into the resort and they're like, "Oh, they're testing on people. There's dead people on the beach." Blah, 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 blah. And then the movie kind of ends. Oh no, the movie doesn't end. It features them in a helicopter going back to an uncle or whatever that were since they've aged 60 years. I don't know why they included that. It was really pointless. It's not a very interesting ending. They also do a fake out where you're meant to believe that the kids are dead, I guess, but obviously they're not. Like the big suspense is that the woman, one of the sister, gets her blouse caught on a bit of coral, and she's like, help me, and rather than just taking off the top, they struggle for ages, and then they cut to this medical research thing. It also seems like the people at the hotel, some of them weren't there for medical research, and also I'm like, you're killing a lot of people that aren't sick, and adding a necessary risk there. What's the point of that? I feel like there probably could have been a lot of great uses to this beach. I just don't know if medical research was the one I would have chosen. Quick surgery would have been handy. I guess it ages you, but you know. Oh man. Yeah, I did not enjoy this movie at all. And I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt because I thought that the premise seemed somewhat interesting. And I think I feel like everyone's kind of gets on board with the M. Night Shyamalan Renaissance. Like, he's going to come out and deliver that other amazing film. You know, after Split, we were like, we're pulling for you, M. Night. And then there was Glass. And it was like, oh. It was okay, I guess. And then we got to this and it was like, oh. Some people like this film. I would say that the way of describing this is that it's a divisive film. It's not a terrible film. There are people who really liked it and people who really didn't like it. I'm someone who didn't like it, but I guess check it out for yourself if you want. The performances were sort of okay. I thought they were a bit inconsistent. Some of the actors are good, some of them are terrible. But like, I just thought this was a big waste of time. It was way longer than it should have been as well. It just dragged for me. It wasn't my thing. Anyway, that's my review of Old. This is cut from my podcast, so if you want to hear me talk about movie news, trailers, and our feature this week, which is a feature on Richard Donner, the legendary director and his body of work, check it out on this channel. There'll be a link in the description. Aside from that, if you want to hear more reviews from me, check out Any Good on this channel as well, where I do some of the biggest releases in cinemas. Either way, I've been your cult leader, Tom Pot, and remember, can't spell cult without you.